foot, there's a telling tale of what I believed in as a hitter, that what I thought I had to do my whole life. And obviously in the cage, I don't think intensity is ever quite as high as it is on the field, so my lower half certainly never was that narrow, but at the same time, the movement that I was working off of was that turn of the back foot right there. Again, thinking about squishing a bug, really, like, I guess by definition. But really no drive with the inside of the back knee, I don't think. It's more of just kind of rotating on an axis. And not that there's some bad things going on there, but certainly could become more efficient, I guess. But the part that I really took a serious dislike to was my upper half, and I actually have another video. This one I'm a little bit more apt to turn the barrel this way, to tip the bat in that angle, if you will. Like, I guess my whole life I had learned, again, the safe routes to hitting, like, basically, I have a bat right here, I'll show you guys. Basically, don't get the bat wrapped around your head before you're ready to fire. So every time I would take it back, I would create this direction, which again, it's very, as Tukes and I refer to it, it's very safe. A lot of big league hitters would get the barrel angled this way, and I said, man, I don't know how they do that. Maybe that's why they're big leaguers. And what had been successful for me for a while was certainly not something I was going to change. But again, if you're willing to do something and put in the time, I think it happens. So Tukes and I basically started with this process. He said, just think about power tipping forward, and certainly not something I think I do in a game at all now, but just kind of get the feel of the hands. And if you watch, I get to right there. My hands are still working, but certainly I see a lot of that knob to the ball theory. And from back there, when I'm thinking about knob to the ball, I don't really think anything good's happening. Pounding balls in the ground, the direction of my swing is very much down, and I'm creating playing by accident here, for sure. I'll let this play, and I'll play the volume. It was a little bit better path, and again, these are all things, like, I think if you do notice good path in these swings, like good deep barrel path, it's probably an accident, to be honest with you. It's probably something that I wasn't consciously thinking of. So I'll kind of let these play again. Again, look at this swing right here. This is, the elbow's working down, but the barrel really is just coming forward with hand movement.
The swing, not that swing, the one before it, I like the upper body a lot.
If you hear Tukes on that one, that made sense to me, but
he needs to do that drill against the wall.
I didn't really get what he was talking about. So those are swings. As I was progressing through, I guess the winter of 2010, looking forward to the 2011 season. That'll kind of lead me to this video, which is our most recent hitting session, and unfortunately I only have a couple of the angles that we took that day. But this is actually a good angle to note kind of the stuff that I have been working on. The two major changes that I really made this year were certainly, I don't think they were necessarily swing overhaul things, but they were two, I guess conceptually, things that I needed to understand. And the first one, and the most important one that I talked about with Tukes, was a running start. And what I had always been taught was to get it ready early, which was obviously a good thing, get ready early, but I think somewhere in translation I lost the idea of the fact that I needed to be in movement. Like, my hands needed to be going. An object in motion is always going to create, better speed, better power, better force than an object that's stopped and has to start again. And, I used to legitimately get my hands back and then pause and then try to get them going again, and it would be a rushed movement. It didn't feel right. And I could describe in 2010, 2009, that I had some really good pitches to hit that I missed, especially when I wasn't going very well. And I guess in 2011, I don't really feel like that happened very often. if I did miss, it was not a product of stopping, it was a product of just swinging underneath or missing a little bit, I guess. So if you watch this swing right here, again, in the cage, certainly less intensity with the lower half. Concentrating on some things up here mainly, because those are still the things that I have to learn for myself. I think that I'm still trying to improve on and master day in and day out. So I guess I'll go off arm action right here. Addison's flipping to me, his arm action goes back. That's for me, I guess, when I start my change, my barrel change, and that used to happen for me as well, but I think this year I started to understand it more. So from that point now, I'm a toe touch guy, so my toe comes in, and at this point my hands are working down a little bit. So again, something that I would have told you 2 years ago that is voodoo, I couldn't have been able to do. So my hands work down, I get to toe touch, and then the knee starts to work down, the front heel starts to work down, and my biggest goal right here is to try to keep my hands in motion. So what you'll notice is instead of a pause right here, if I just play this through from, I guess, right here, instead of a pause, you'll just see continuous motion, I hope. And that, I think, was pretty important for me. I definitely feel like I hit balls with significantly more authority. I'm a big guy, 6'4", 220, and I always wanted to understand how to drive the ball, and I really feel like I have a better understanding of how to do that now on a consistent basis, I guess. This front view is actually pretty telling, too. Hands are in motion, and they're still working. Just working through the middle of the field, really trying to take care of my approach in the cage. Again, the hands, if you watch frame by frame, in motion, in motion, in motion. And the thing I like about myself here is my barrel's getting really deep, really behind the baseball, and getting in good position to strike from. I guarantee you if I took a side-by-side of this frame compared to a frame from 2010 or 2009, my hands have already been leaking forward, where now, because I started generating good barrel path and getting good deep barrel path behind me, I think my hands are much further back in a much better position to strike from, accelerating in the back of the hitting zone. So there's kind of that swing right there. What I think about with the lower half, I think right here, is as this heel comes to the ground and as I start to turn the barrel, my biggest concern now versus rotating is, like I said, when I noticed that clip of myself hitting that ball, one of the furthest balls I've ever hit in my life, I noticed that pattern of the inside of the knee driving to the heel. And again, that's just something that works for me, I think. I don't know if that's the way to describe it, but I think there's certainly some sense of that. I've discussed it with some guys that I work with, and if you see right here, I'm really just thinking about my heel getting off the ground and that knee working down. This one turned into a little bit more of a pivot, but I don't necessarily think all my swings are like that. Let me go back to a couple clips right here, see what it looks like. I got mad at that swing. I get mad at swings in November, even when my process is bad. I'm going to move this thing. I don't want to see that one again. Again, I think pivot now, for me, or that turn, is much more a byproduct of what's happening with the knee. And again, in the cage, intensity is, for me anyway, with my lower half, is significantly lower. So that's just kind of looking to some of the things that really got different for me. The one thing I will say that I really haven't talked about, and I think was a pretty major change for me this year, was something I discussed with Bobby and something I discussed with my hitting coach, Chip Plant, in Worcester. We were about a week and a half into the year. Really hadn't felt like I struck the ball with all the authority that I should have, kind of missing some good pitches to hit, and we talked about the idea of committing to the swing, just swinging every pitch. And it was something that, it just so happened that night, Tukes had written a blog or a post on his website about Jose Bautista, and he talked about the idea of swinging at every pitch until you're not swinging, and it just went like that. And the next day I went out and I went homer, double, single my first 3 at bats. Finished the game 3 for 4, and it was kind of off to the races after that. That was probably about June 15th, and I just remember, you know, in the cage definitely taking care of barrel path, just making sure my hands were working back away from me, and I was committing to the swing. You know, tip, back, and turn. And I guess that's the biggest thing. There were really no major changes in the swing, I think, just kind of an approach. So, and again, with the lower half, back knee to the ground for me. So, again, thanks for checking out the blog. I'm going to be posting again probably tonight, late, but I think this is going to kind of cover my big changes for the year and the things that really helped make me what I was this year, Independent Player of the Year by Baseball America. Quite the honor. So I was very flattered to get it. And, a lot of it thanks to Tukes and AB Athletics up here. So keep checking us out, and thanks again. Take care.